Hey everyone, so there was two things I wanted to go over today. One of them is a bit of a review of the CBS fight against Zurdo, and another one is the fact that we are about a month away from the big rematch, Fury and Usyk, which I'm really excited about. First of all, we're going to go through that review. Now, I got it very wrong. If you go back, not my last video, but the video before, I spoke about how I thought the fight was going to play out, and yeah, I was very wrong. Zurdo was very impressive. It was a really entertaining fight. Now, I kind of thought that the fact that Chris has been a career-long cruiserweight, I thought it would show. I thought we would see his size come into play a lot more than it did, and I thought we would see his pace and his work rate come into play a lot more than it did. But I think what we saw was some really great feet off Zerdo. I mentioned in my preview that, he's happy to go forward and backwards, and we saw that. But what we really saw was how good he is at cutting off at angles, which I think that put a stop to how effective Chris's pace normally is. Um, Zerdo also took Chris's best shots, which I wasn't sure if he would. When it got into the later rounds, he kind of just kept ploughing through. I mean, Chris started off well. The first round was a good round for Chris, but Zerdo didn't ever really let Chris get a real foothold in the fight. He was very accurate, changed from head to body. I was most impressed with his feet, to be honest. I knew he had good shot selection, but it was his feet that really impressed me. The way he was able to cut off the angles, the way he was able to counter, the way he was able to spin off on the ropes. Um, Ultimately, I was very impressed, very, very impressed. And it's kind of interesting because looking back, I watched a load of his fights beforehand, and it was hard to tell how good he really was because starting at super middle, going up to light heavy. Um, Chris was only his second fight at cruiserweight, so you question how he's going to handle the size of these proper cruiserweights. He handled it so well. His only loss his only loss was Bivol, and losing to Bivol kind of means nothing. Bivol's up there in top five pound for pound. Um, so I think in a way that fight for Zerdo was almost like, I want to say coming of age fight, but it doesn't make sense because he's had loads of fights. I think he's had 40, I want to say 48. That might be wrong, but he's had a lot of fights. So it's a bit mad that it's kind of taken him this long into his career to have a fight where people are going, bloody hell, this guy is serious. Um, but no, very impressive, really entertaining fight. I think going forward, it's exciting because, at the top of that division, really, you've got Jai Opetaia, who is ultra exciting. He's got that kind of air of superstar. That's the way I look at him. When you see him outside of the ring, he's so serious, he's so intense, which is kind of fun. He kind of looks through people as if he's going to walk through them. But then he's also a slick boxer. You can see he's got that amateur pedigree, unreal footwork, really accurate. So to see him in with Zerdo, I think next year that's a huge fight, huge fight, and it's got to happen. Possibly a undisputed fight, depending on the way the cookie crumbles. Um, but for Chris deserves a massive break after this fight. It was a hard fight, so he's going to want a nice long break. Um, and then he's going to go back to the drawing board with his coach, and he's going to go again. He's still a world level fighter. There's no doubt about that. So he's going to come back, and he'll come back strong, and I can't wait to see him. Now, like I said, we've got a month until the big rematch, Fury Usyk. I'm so excited, and it's kind of crept up. A while ago, it felt like we had ages to wait, but now it's nearly here. Um, Now before the first fight, I was adamant that Usyk was going to win, and I said it from, to be honest, I think even before the fight was properly announced. Um, it was the real fight. The first fight, sorry, ended up being closer than I thought it would be. There was parts in the midsection of that fight where it was so kind of like, bloody hell, Fury's pulled it back, and Usyk really looks like he's in trouble. He looked like he was struggling with Fury's size, and he looked like he was kind of struggling to get anything off, kind of struggling to hurt Fury, which is ironic because obviously we know what came next. Um, but like I said, I chose Usyk, and I was very, very clear on that. I had no doubts. Going into the rematch, I'm finding it harder to pick a winner, which is funny. You'd think I'd pick the winner of the first fight, considering I picked him the first time. But what Fury said, which has kind of made me think, oh, this could go a different way, is he said the only thing he's going to change is the fact that he's not going to mess around anymore. And I think that could be enough. When you look back at that fight, it actually shocked me how much Fury showboated and messed around. I didn't really get it. He wasn't at any point in that fight, apart from the midsection, which, funnily enough, is probably when he was showboating the least. He wasn't at any point in that fight in a position where showboating to me made sense. Um, yeah, he lost, in my opinion, he could have lost rounds, especially in the early part of that fight, because of the showboating. So going into the next fight, seeing that it looks like he has a more serious head on, and possibly taking Usyk, you would think, more serious than he did the first time round, um, could make this a different fight. You never know. Usyk's got that kind of all-time great aura about him. I genuinely think when he retires, he will have that label of an all-time great. And those guys just seem to kind of pull out whatever they need to make it happen. If you, like I said, watching the middle part of that fight, I was worried for Usyk. It really looked like possibly he could even get stopped, but he kind of just made it happen. He would not be denied. So there's no reason why he can't do that in the second fight. Um, you hear a lot of people say, "Oh, well, if Fury does what he did in the middle part of the fight for the whole fight, Usyk won't get near him." It's a big if. It's a big if. There's a reason why he didn't do it the first time round. Um, I think someone that sums Usyk up really well is Bellew. Obviously, their fight, Bellew did amazing the first half of that fight. But it's like he says, that pressure from Usyk is not just physical. It's not just the fact that he's constantly moving his feet, he's constantly feinting, constantly moving, constantly changing his shape, which means you can't ever really adjust. He's making you think for every second of every round. You can't switch off, which is why you end up exhausted in that last third of the fight, which is when he tends to hurt people. If you look back at Usyk's fights, he tends to hurt people in that section because they're exhausted. His opponents are done. Um, but I'm so excited, and I am going to sit on the fence. I'm not going to pick a winner just yet. I'm going to wait until close to the fight, and then I'll pick a winner. But I need to think about it for a bit longer. I'm really excited. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you thought about the first fight, and let me know how you think the second fight is going to play out. Um, we might end up with a trilogy. You never know, and it's going to kind of set the tone for the rest of the heavyweight division. It's exciting. Let me know what you think.